Hello to all of you. I'm starting off the next chapter of quantitative methods, which is called time value of money and applications in your CFA books. But I have named it as time value of money concepts. So basically, I want to clarify one thing. Recently, as the CFA updated this labels, they have introduced some new concepts about time value of money in their second chapter of quantitative methods. And some of the portion has been, you know, taken back to prerequisites of CFA syllabus, which is not testable, but you need to know them. Prerequisite means that you know that amount of syllabus or you know that amount of concepts so that you can easily apply them in the upcoming topics or chapters. So I have felt that it is highly important for my students to know all these concepts. I'm not assuming that you know it. That's why I'm going to teach it, because these concepts are very important for your subjects as we move in advance. To have a good grip on them, you need to be knowing these concepts very well. So I'm not taking this assumption you know it. I will be teaching it. So enjoy it, because I'm definitely sure many of the students, most of the students would be, it would be very new to them, especially with the use of the financial calculator. Moreover, in this subjects, especially for time value of money application, there have been concepts taught in this chapter in the CFA books, which are related to some of the topics which we will study later on, like equity concepts, like portfolio management concepts, like fixed income concepts. So concepts like fixed income, portfolio management, equity. I will not be teaching them right now. Why? Because I take this subject as the first subject for my students. So I understand my students may not be knowing these concepts right now, or might not be having the background knowledge of these subjects like fixed income, portfolio, and equity. Hence, I will be focusing on these problems in their relevant subjects later on. So be rest assured. Just follow my the way I'm taking you. Let me have the steering in the hand, and just rest assured, we will cover everything as we proceed. Right now, what is more important is the time value of money concepts. Let's start off with this chapter, time value of money concept, and I believe this is the most interesting one. For this, make sure you must have a calculator in your hand, which is called the financial calculator, BA2 plus or BA2 plus professional, anyone you can buy. You must be having that with you so that you can easily grasp concepts and apply the concepts that we're going to study in this lecture. So let's start off with the basic concepts. So starting onwards, I'll repeat the same concept firstly of future value and present value. Let's recall this concept. Whatever money you invest today, whatever amount which is represented in today's term, in present terms, in today's term, that is called present value. And if I want to translate that amount after getting the return in the future, after adding the return, I'll get in 1 year, and then want to see what value will it be after a certain period of time, let's suppose 1 year. That is seeing the value in the future. That is seeing the value in the future. That is called future value. For example, in today's time, or in today, in present terms, I invested dollars 10,000 from my pocket. I will be getting a required rate of return of 10%. And I want to know how much my value will become after 1 year. After 1 year. So I want to know my future value. So very simple. You just need to grow this amount by this rate by 10%. You need to grow this amount by 10%. Simply what you can do is either 10,000 into 1 plus rate. This is the formula of growing the amount. Is to the power of n. How many years are you growing that amount is equals to future value. So 10,000 into 1 plus 0.1. For 1 year, I'm growing it. I'll get the future value, which will be 11,000. So 10%, by 10%, I've grown the amount. That is, I've increased the amount by 1,000. So it was initially 10,000. 1,000 was the return. I added a 1,000 to 10,000. I got 11,000. So I can use this formula to quickly get my future value or present value. The formula I repeat is simply present value into 1 plus rate is to the power of n is equals to future value. For example, if you wanted to know the future value after the second year, so now you have received return for 2 years, first year 10% and the second year 10%. So you will have to add up return twice. First, you'll grow the amount by 10% here, which becomes 11,000. Then further it will get 10% return, and then you'll get a ending amount over here. So you can do it through the formula over here. 10,000 is the present value. You want a future value over here after 2 years. So your n would be 2 in this case. So what I'll do, I'll just change the n over here. It will be 2 because now I'm growing the present value by 10% twice in my timeline. So the answer I will get is 10,000 into 1.1 square, 12,100. I'll be getting 12,100. 12,100. Simply, I have added up the return for 2 years and I've got the future value. Similarly, if I wanted the opposite, meaning that if I had the future value, let's suppose 12,100, if I had known that and I want to calculate my present value, that what amount should I invest today? Listen to my words. What amount should I invest today in order to get 12,100 after 2 years? So now I'm concerned about my present value. Before, the question was how much amount will become after 2 years if I invest today 10,000. So my question was about future value. Now I'm changing the question. I'm saying what amount shall I invest today in order to get 12,100 after 2 years? Now in this question, I am asking how much would be the present value. I want to know the present value. I've been told the future value, which is how much? 12,100. I've been told n, which is 2 years. What I want? Present value. So I can use the same formula, just make present value the subject. So present value is equals to future value divided by 1 plus rate is to the power of n. So present value will equals to future value. I've said 12,100 divided by 1 plus 0.1 is the rate, and n is 2 over here. When you will calculate it, you will get exactly 10,000. Let's check 12,100 divided by 1.1 square, and you will be getting exactly 10,000. Your present value would be 10,000. This is also called, whenever we are going from future value to present value, we call this process discounting. Why? Because in order to get present value from future value, we can apply our logic sense that present value will always be lower because we are removing the return from the future value, meaning we are discounting the future value to reach towards present value. So this process is called discounting. And when we are calculating present value, we also call the rate as discount rate. Because that rate is being used to discount the value of the future value. I'm discounting the future value to reach towards present value by using the rate, which is also called then discount rate. I hope you're picking up things here. Let's apply the same concept in this question. It says calculate the future value. It is asking for future value of a $300 investment at the end of 10 years if it earns an annually compounded rate of return of 8%. So it is saying to calculate future value after 10 years. So your n is number of periods are 10. 10 years. If you invest So you're investing how much? Dollars 300. So you're investing today how much? Dollars 300. At the rate of return of rate is 8%. You're asked to compute future value. You are asked to compute future value. So simply, sir, how shall I compute it? We can use the formula. Future value is equals to present value into 1 plus rate is to the power of n. So present value, sir, is 300. 1 plus rate is, sir, 0.08. N is, sir, 10. So simply use the calculator and solve it. 300 into 1.08 power 10. I'll be getting 648. 648. This is my future value. If I today invest how much? 300, and every year I get a return of 8%, then after 10 years in my account, how much amount shall I be having? Sir, 648. Sir, 648. 648. I hope that is also clear to you. Now, before doing the other way around, I'm also doing the second part of it. It is the present value. Given a discount rate of 9%, calculate the present value. So you're supposed to calculate present value. And that's why they've used the term discount rate now. Discount rate and the rate is the same thing. But I have just, tried to explain you whenever we are calculating present value, we can use that term as discount rate because we'll be discounting the future value with that rate. Of 1000 cash flow that will be received in 5 years. So it is asking me that in 5 years, he will receive what cash flow? Dollars 1000. So this becomes my future value. 5 becomes my N, number of periods, 5 years. And discount rate is how much? 9%. So this is the rate at which I'll be discounting my future value. So I'll simply use the formula present value is equals to future value 1000 divided by 1 plus R 0.09 is to the power of 5. So let's do this. 1000 divided by 1.09 power 5. I'll be getting 650. I shall be getting 650 as my present value. Up till now, I tried to solve these two questions through the use of the equation so that conceptually you can imagine what is happening. Now I'm going to make it more easy for you with the use of the financial calculator. So now I'll open up the use of financial calculator for calculating present value and future value. Present value and future value. Before I open up that calculator, please make sure you keep those calculators in front of you so that it is easy for us to, relate what I'm trying to tell you. So firstly, before we solve for present value and future value questions, let me give you slight knowledge about the calculator in relation to the present value and future value. If you want to know all about the calculator, please do watch my basic video on the use of the calculator. It is must before this lecture so that you are entirely familiar with that calculator. Because right now I will only be teaching those concepts which is in relation with the time value of money. Okay. So let me open this calculator for you. So that's how the calculator will be looking in front of you. If you see its keys, it will be exactly the way I've just represented you in front of you. First thing first, even though I've explained this in my tutorial video of calculator, but still, first thing first is just set the decimal number into 9. For that, you have to click second, format. I repeat again, in case if you have forgotten it. Otherwise, please do visit my tutorial calculator video. Click second, then click format, which is the dot key over here. Then click 9, over here, the 9. Click enter, over here, enter, and click equals to, over here, equals to. and click CAC then. So now your calculator is up to 9 decimal place. You do not have to see 0.0000 again now. Now for time value of money, important keys in your calculator is this line. This line is the most important key for your calculator. These are called time value of money keys. Time value of money keys. This is N, which is number of periods. This is IY, which is interest rate per compounding period or per period. This is PV, which is the present value. This is payment, which we will understand later on. Right now, payment, just assume it as a payment structure in a timeline. Right now, it is not relevant currently. And this is future value. FV is the future value. First thing first, what I want you to do is click the second key. Second key, click that. Then click this IY. And if you see some other number mentioned over here against PY, PY is basically the compounding periods in 1 year. We are keeping it 1, assuming that annual compounding is there only. So if you see any other number, just click 1 and click enter. Just click 1 and click enter and CEC. Click it twice, CEC, so it converts into 0. Second, the most important thing is, whenever we will be solving any question through calculator, we will be making sure that we always clear TVM. It's over here. It says clear time value of money. Always clear TVM. TVM means it will clear all the inputs you have already done in these keys. It will clear that. If you don't clear that, there's a risk that you may end up using an input of an old question and you get an incorrect answer. So for every new question, we will always do clear TVM. Now, clear TVM, as I have taught in the tutorial CFA video, it is the second key as it is written above the, click. It is written above the click. So it's the second key. So in order to clear TVM, first you will have to click second, click this, then click FV. That means you have cleared all the time value of money keys. Which keys? These keys. You have cleared all the time value of money keys. So let's do those 2 questions from the calculator as well. Said so you understand that are you getting the same answers or not. So what is important for the calculator is simply these inputs. All you need to know is write down N. What's the value of N? Rate, which is I. Present value, if it is given. If it is not, we're going to put a question mark on it. Payment, for now, we're going to keep 0. For now, we're going to keep 0. And future value. We need to know these inputs. Once we are known about these inputs, we can easily calculate on the calculator. Let's repeat that exercise that we did right now of those 2 questions. Why not just write down those inputs here and then calculate them. So in this question, it said N is equals to 10 is, so 10. Then it said calculate the future value, and the 300 was the present value in this, 300. Then it said rate is 8%, 8%. PMT, as I said, we're going to keep 0 at always right now. And we need to calculate is the future value. That's where I'll put the question mark. This is what I need to calculate. Let's try and implement this onto the calculator. So for doing it, remember this, first we have to enter the digit, and after that we'll enter the input. First we'll enter the digit. I'll explain you how. Number 2 thing is, the calculator assumes your rate to be in percentage. So you can ignore the percentage sign over here and just input the number, because it assumes it to be in percentage. Number 3, keep your present value always in negative, because the calculator believes that if something is going out of the pocket, then only something is coming in the pocket. It cannot believe that future value and present value are in the same signs. As we've already studied up till now, Something is going out of our pocket. We are investing something. That's why we are getting something in the future. So hence, always keep present value in negative so that the calculator does not get confuses. Otherwise, if you do not keep this in negative, then either the future value will show up as negative. So it's better to keep always present value as negative. Now let's start the process. First is n. First is n 10. For that, I'll click the digit first. See, I'm clicking 10, 1, 0, 10. Then I'll click the alphabet. Then I'll click the n over here, n. It shows n equals to 10. That means it has recorded the input. Next is minus 300 present value. For that, first I'll click 300, 300. Then I'll click the plus minus sign to make it in minus. Now I've got minus 300. Now, where do I want to input this? As present value. So I'll click the PV sign over here. So it has recorded this input. PV is equals to minus 300. Then I want interest to be as 8. So I'll just write 8, input 8, and I'll input IY. It has recorded my interest as 8. I'll keep payment term 0 until we understand that later on. And what do I need to compute? What is the question mark? Sir, I need to compute future value. So I would need to compute future value. For that, first I'll click compute and then I'll click future value. So see over here in the calculator, compute is this key, CPT, CPT. I'll click compute and I click future value. I'll click compute and I'll click future value, which is coming to be 648, same as we calculated manually, 648. It is coming to be 648, same as we calculated manually, 647.6774992, which is 648 rounding off. Let's try the same thing with the second question and see if you can understand. So this was your second question. It said, given the discount rate is 9, discount rate and interest rate is the same thing. I is the rate of return is 9. Because the calculator assumes it to be in percentage, we'll just write the number 9. Present value, calculate the present value. This time we need to calculate the present value of a 1,000 cash flow that will be received in 5 years. So this 1,000 is the future value. 1,000 is the future value. We'll always keep the future value in positive. And it will be received in 5 years. So the period is 5. Payment will keep 0. Payment will keep 0. And I need to calculate future value. So these are my inputs. Let's try this on the calculator as well. So the first thing we need to do is clear TVM. I'll click second and clear FV so that the inputs of the old questions are removed. Now, see, it is up to you in any order you want to input it. It doesn't matter. If you want to input N first or if you want to input PV first, it doesn't matter. As I've written, I'm doing it similarly. I is 9. So I'll enter first the digit, then IY. 1,000 is the future value, 1,000. Then I'll click future value. 5 is N. I'll click 5. Then I'll click N. Payment, I'll remain 0. And I need to compute, pardon me, I had to compute present value, sorry. I had to compute present value. So I'll compute present value. I'll click compute CPT and click PV. I'll be getting 650. That's what we got as well, 650 as present value. Now you can see how simple it becomes when you're using the calculator. It becomes very simple to calculate the present values and the future values. Let's try, do some practice on it. So I want you to quickly So let's try these four questions over here. It says, first question says, the amount an investor will have in 15 years if 1,000 is invested today. It is invested today, so this becomes a present value. It is being invested today, 1,000. at an annual interest of 9%. So at an annual interest of how much? 9% becomes your I, interest. How much will you get after 15 years? So 15 years becomes your N. And what do you want to know? Future value, sir. So if I write the inputs, N is equals to 15, present value is equals to 1000, but always keep it in negative. I is equals to 9. The payment will remain 0, and you need to compute future value. So I'll do it on the calculator. First, I click second, clear TBM. It's all cleared. Now I'll enter 15 N. Then I click 1000 and click plus minus. So that becomes minus. Then click present value. Then I'll click 9 IY, and then I'll compute future value. So I'm getting 3642. I'm getting 3642. My future value is 3642. Just to make sure and to prove you, manually as well, you're getting the same answer. If you would have done manually, you would have taken a present value into 1 plus rate, which is 0.09 is to the power of 15, and you would have got the same answer. You can calculate that as well. 1000 into 1.09 yx 15, 0.09 yx 15 into 1000. Same answer, you're getting 3642. Let's try question number 2. 50 years ago, an investor bought a share of stock for $10. 50 years ago. So N, they have given you 50. 50 years ago, he bought a stock for $10. So if he is here today, 50 years ago, so right now is 50th year, and 50 years ago, he bought a stock for $10 at that time. The stock has paid no dividends during the period, yet it returned 20% compounded annually. So rate is 20% over the past 58. If this is true, the share price now is, share price meaning, just remove it. What is the value now? Meaning now you are at 50th. Now these terms will make it harder for you because it is saying now. So now means present value, but the case is 50 years back. So you have to go 50 years back. You are standing on the 50th year. So this becomes a future value of 10. This becomes a future value. So your present value is minus 10. N is 50. Interest rate is 20. And you need to compute future value. So I'll do that for you. First, again, I'll click CEC. I'll do second, clear TBM. So everything is clear. I'll click 10 and minus sign. Then I'll click PV. Then I'll click 50 and then I click N. Then I'll click 20. Then I click IY. Then I'll click 0 payment and compute future value. I'm getting 91,000, 91,004, 91,004, 91,004. This is what I'm getting, 91,004 after 50 years, which is C, which is C. The first one was, I guess, C as well. This is also C. Question 3 says, question 3 is very simple if you can just do it logically. It says, how much must be invested today at a 0% to have 100 in 3 years? He's saying how much to invest today if you want 100 in 3 years if the return is 0. So if the return is, sir, 0, then obviously future value and present value will always be the same amount. What is the difference between present value and future value? It is the difference of return. Here the return is 0. So you're not making any return. So your 100 will remain 100 throughout. So your present value will always be what? 100. You do not need to calculate it, even though if you calculate, you'll get the same answer. But there's no need to calculate it. It's very logical. Next, question number 4. How much must be invested today at 8% interest to accumulate enough to retire 10,000 debt due 7 years from today. He's saying how much to invest today, how much to invest today, that is the present value, at a rate of 8% to accumulate enough to retire 10,000 due in 7 years time. So that in 7 years, you have enough in your account, which is 10,000, so you can pay off the debt. So you want in your account to be having how much? 10,000 in 7 years time with a rate of 8%. So it is asking you how much to invest today. So it's saying the amount that must be invested today. So you need to calculate present value. So you write the inputs. N is equals to 7. I is equals to 8. Future value is equals to 10,000. And you need to compute present value. So let's try that. First, second, clear TVM. I'm writing 7N, 8 IY, 10,000 future value, 0 payment. I'll click compute present value. So I need to have, it will always give you answer negative. We'll ignore the negative sign because the calculator assumes one is outflow and one is inflow. So I have to invest today. I need to take money out of my pocket today to invest, which is 5,834. Rounding off is 5,835. So answer would be A to this. I hope now it's becoming interesting for you that how we are using the calculator to calculate present values and future values. I hope this much practice would have gained you a slight concept of calculating present values and future values through the use of calculator. Let's move further on.